Well, good morning, everybody. This is Mike Feldauer from the Flagler Voice, and today we're coming to you from the Emergency Management Headquarters here in Flagler County. And today, Jonathan has a special man with him who's going to be talking about the different aspects of this building, our facility here, which is, once you see it, you're going to realize that it's an incredible time. So, Jonathan, why don't you start us off, give us a little idea of what's going on, introduce us to Mr. Pickering.
Yes, so good day. Again, my name is Jonathan Lauder. I'm the Emergency Management Director for Flagler County, which I work for the county, but it also, we also serve the cities as well as the entire county itself to make sure that our community is protected and ready to deal with disasters. And today we are actually in what we call the Emergency Operations Center, which is the nerve hub for disaster response if something big was to happen in our community. And with me today is Bob Pickering, and he is one of our emergency management specialists. We've met a few others over the last few months. And Bob's primary role is actually maintaining this facility for us. While he doesn't do the actual repairs, he works with the people that make sure the building is up and running. His main job is to test the equipment on an ongoing basis. So if a disaster was to happen with little to no notice, we could literally throw switches and get this building up and running and bring in all of our different partners to help take care of our community.
Excellent. So where do we want to start?
All right, so we're in the lobby today. So actually the first thing we'll do is we'll head into the press room, and I'll let Bob take it from here, kind of explain the purpose of each room and why we have each location.
All right, very good.
Well, let's go.
We're going to follow me. So the first place is we have this thing called the EOC Studio. And we can take a quick look in here. And the EOC Studio allows us to connect to local radio stations and other media. And not just radio stations, we can actually do podcasts and stuff like that from here. This allows us to get information out to the public during an emergency. And one of the things that works best during emergencies is radio. And everyone's got a radio in their car, battery-operated radios and so forth. So we have agreements with the local radio stations here, and we can connect directly to them and broadcast live from here. And if needed, some of their staff can actually come here and actually staff and run this during a large-scale incident. But we're going to continue forth. Speaking of media, since radio is one part of that, we do have one large media briefing room. And we have Miss Connie, one of our volunteers. Volunteers are very critical to our operation here. We couldn't function without them. And she's helping prepare the room for a class that will be happening later on today. But these rooms are used for training purposes and so forth when we don't have emergencies going on. But this is generally where our briefings, our media briefings are held, is right here in this room. And we can reconfigure it, move the tables out of the way, put a little stage up there, change the lighting and all that stuff, and make it usable for a media briefing room during times of emergency. So we're going to, so we're going to pop on over to the next one.
Okay.
Now, this is a movable wall, so we can move this. If for some reason we have a need, like we have a large training class or something like that, we can move this wall and have a very large area in which, we can double the size of a training class, whatever that we're going to do. When we have some of the bigger classes here, which we're always doing training classes, and a lot of those are aimed at emergency management staff, but we even have some training classes for the public as well. But if we need the extra room, we can move the wall, and we have a big room. So we'll come into the other room now. And this room serves as another training room, so we can actually have two different classes going on at the same time. But during times of emergencies, the tables are all reorientated into a big, U shape, and this becomes our call center, where folks can call in to find out accurate and updated information during an emergency or disaster type event. And we can make it as big as it needs to be or as small as it needs to be. And we have a whole bunch of telephones and everything packed away that our information technology department will deploy, set up, and get everything up and running for us. And we reach out to our administration department. They will actually go ahead and get all the call takers all activated in here. And we can operate it whether it's 24 hours a day or just certain times of the day, depending on the incident and what's going on. And we can use the screens and the TV here to keep everyone in this room informed of the latest information. Plus, folks in the operations room are coming back and forth here, making sure that they're getting the correct info as needed. So we're going to continue our tour now.
I think we shall head right to the operations room since you brought it up.
All right, we'll go there first. Okay. Let's go to the operations room. So again, back through the lobby once again, and Miss Diane, another one of our wonderful volunteers. We have volunteers that keep our front desk staffed it helps us during the course of the day. But we're going to come on further back. Now, this image here, this is the old Emergency Operations Center was getting demolished. And that was the first Emergency Operations Center we ever had in Flagler County. Moved in it in 1988, and it served in that function from 1988 until 2006 when we moved into this building. And we've been in this building since 2006. Well, we'll just pop right on in. Now, this is now the secured part of the building. Thank you, Jonathan. And we have office space and such, and also breakout room, planning rooms. We're going to come right on down the hallway here. Come on in. So this is our operations room. So welcome to the operations room of the Flagler County Emergency Operations Center. And this is basically the brains of the operation. And everything else that we're going to see generally supports what happens in this room. And the room is basically divided into two areas. Everything over here is all logistics and planning, and everything on the further side of the room, excuse me, is all emergency services, tactical, out on the ground, and it's all divided into two sections. So folks on the further side of the room are basically operating the shelters, helping coordinate things on the ground and all that stuff. While folks on this side of the room are planning for the next part of the operation, providing the logistics and the supplies that are needed to make the operation that's going on happen. Whether we need extra radios or more water or any kind of supplies, this is where all of that happens. Further up is we have finance and operation chiefs, where they are basically coordinating everything going on. And what's interesting is right behind me here is where we have representation from all of the different municipalities in Flagler County. Whether you're as small as Marineland or as big as Palm Coast, everyone has a seat here. So folks have a representative in our operations to have a say what's going on, and also to give us input on what's happening here in Flagler County, where we have a big emergency, something going on. Now, the room is set up where we have all kinds of access to media. So folks in the room can have full situational awareness and be aware of what's going on. One of the cool things is we actually have our own weather radar. Not many people have that. And we have that displayed up on the screens there, and I'll show you the radar dish a little bit later as we go through our tour. And that allows us to have good situational awareness, especially if we are working a weather type event here in Flagler County. The other bits about this room too is that it is hollow floor, so it allows us to reconfigure things as needed, because emergency management is always an evolving thing. We're always learning, we're improving, and matter of fact, before Jonathan got here, this was all kind of set up like in a classroom fashion, but we worked out a way by looking at other emergency operations centers to actually reconfigure it to make it more user-friendly, if you will, put more seats in this room as well. And so this configuration has been this way for the last several years now. So this is generally a newer configuration in the Emergency Operations Center's operations room. We also have several breakout rooms. There's one right behind you there, and we have another one on the other side. So if a group of folks need to get out of this and have a little meeting and discuss a particular issue, they can do that without being disruptive to the operation in here. And also hallways go all the way around this. So there's really, if someone's in the EOC going from one place to another, they don't need to come through here, to possibly, get in the way of the operation in here. They can get to any other room in this building without coming through here. But the whole building is designed right around this room, and we're real happy with it. It has worked really well for us the past several incidents. So now we're in our kitchen, and the reason we have a kitchen, why do we have a kitchen in our Emergency Operations Center? Well, the reason is that our crews could be actually here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, working shifts, but might not be able to actually leave the building, especially if we are working in storm conditions or something like that. So we have a full kitchen here to sustain and keep everything operating here self-sustained, so we don't have to go out into a supermarket or something, especially if supermarkets are closed in the middle of a hurricane. We have all the food and everything that we need here. So we have a team of folks that will help prepare the meals, and the meals are They are measured out, so it's good dietary, good health and all that stuff. So those meals are prepared here, and then the folks working in the Emergency Operations Center will come in shifts and eat their lunches and their dinners and their breakfast and their overnight meals and so forth. And so this is very similar to an industrial kitchen that you will find in any medium-sized restaurant, and we test all this equipment to make sure it's operable at all times. We also have adjacent right next to our break room, and so that also serves as kind of a feeding area during an activation. So what we're going to do now from the kitchen, we're going to go ahead and move our way to another part of the building that allows us to be self-sustaining. Now we are in the Emergency Operations Center bunk room, because as I stated earlier, if we have folks that are stuck here because of conditions outside, now when we change shifts, we very much would like for our shifts that changed out to be able to go home and sleep in their own bed at night. But sometimes conditions will not allow that. And so we have this bunk room, and we have these bunk beds. Believe it or not, these came from Italy, where in Europe they have hostels and things like that. So out in Italy, it was the only company we could find that could make these things to the specifications that we needed. And so these can fold on up. These are very comfortable, I can tell you that. And these fold on up into these little booths just like this. So when it's not being utilized, it can sit right out of the way. Just like that. And we also have extra sheets, blankets, and all that stuff in here. So what's this room used for when we're not sleeping people? Because, we don't have disasters all the time. So if we don't have folks that are sleeping here, then this room is also used for training purposes by sometimes fire rescue and by sometimes us. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at some of our auxiliary communications, some of the backup systems that we have here in the EOC. So now we're in our auxiliary communications room where we have all of our backup communications. Now, Flagler County does have a state-of-the-art digital 800 megahertz radio communication system. This is the portable radio which is on that network. However, that network, if it should ever fail, and it does have multiple backups on its own, if that should fail or if it should get overloaded, we have what we call our auxiliary communications, which is also staffed by a team of trained and licensed volunteers that have amateur radio and GMRS licensing. And to allow us to have that, we have several radios in this room. We do have these dual band radios, and these can operate on UHF and VHF frequencies, both amateur and GMRS radio, and as well as other frequencies that are used for backup communications. And that's generally for local or regional communications. So should our main network fail, or should it be overloaded and we have other information that needs to be transmitted that's, can't go over the 800 system, we have those radios and the networks they can patch into to help relay information. Now we also have what is called an HF, or high frequency radio, and this basically bounces signals off the ionosphere to talk long distances, and we can reach amateur radio frequencies as well as other federal frequencies to make our communications out of the county should we ever need to. The main purpose of this is to be able to communicate to the State Emergency Operations Center in Tallahassee. And not only can we send voice messages, we can also send digital messages as well, almost like an email, but instead of it's going over the internet, it goes over the air to the Emergency Operations Center in Tallahassee, and they can send that same data back to us. So we have all kinds of systems here to provide for that backup capability should we ever need it during an emergency. And not only do we have the backup equipment here, we actually have the backup antennas as well. So if we should get a really significant wind event that knocks down our existing antennas, we do have backup antennas which our team of volunteers can put back up and get us back on the air. And we're going to take a look at some of those antennas when we get outside here in just a little bit. So now we're outside the Emergency Operations Center, and first thing I'm going to do is this. I was just talking about the antennas for our auxiliary communications networks. Well, we have them all right here, and they are mounted, ready to go. And again, we have backup antennas in the event that those get damaged. The one of interest, you see this big long wire that runs, it's not running through the tree, it's behind it into that flagpole. That is part of our HF, or high frequency communications, that allows us essentially to bounce signals off the upper atmosphere back down to Tallahassee. Now, over by the antennas and in the building, over this kind of like you see these cages over there, we have 2 full-size backup generators to power the building should we lose power. One of those generators could run the entire building, so we have 2, just one as a backup. Those generators are so big, they're about the equivalent of what you would find in a diesel locomotive, and it can easily power the entire building, keeping us up and running through any kind of power outage, whether it's short-term or long-term. So we're equipped for that. Now, the building itself is rated for winds of up to 180 miles per hour, and actually a little bit stronger than that. We actually just got a new roof on, which is also rated for about 180, 200 miles per hour. Hopefully we never see those kind of winds here in Flagler County, but this building is designed to essentially be the last building standing in a large-scale disaster, because this is where we're going to do the response and the recovery from. Now, a few other things that we have out here, we do have some backup generators that we have from the state of Florida. We actually have some of our emergency management vehicles, and there's another, you kind of see it, a trailer out there with a tower on it that is basically a backup communications tower that can be deployed anywhere we need it to set up an emergency radio repeater system, especially if it's something that's way out, you know, way out in the woods where we don't have real good radio reception. We can actually set up our own little radio network wherever we deploy that tower. Or if we go to help some other county, we can use that tower as well. And we also have our storage building, which we also have emergency management supplies that we keep on hand there, ready for disaster response. Okay, so in emergency management, one of our main missions here is to help educate the public, to help the public be prepared for emergencies. And so one of the things we have to do that is this device called the wall of wind. And what it can do is it can actually simulate the winds of different strengths of hurricanes and the different types of building construction on how well they will hold up to certain strengths of wind. And it's a very important tool because folks can take a look at it and realize, oh wait, my house looks like that. Knowing that, oh, I have some weaknesses, they could possibly take some precautions to help strengthen their home to help it make it more storm ready or more weather ready for hurricane seasons, you know, when we do have them here in Flagler County. So emergency management is one of our main things also out there is preparedness, education, and then when disasters happen, we respond and help with the recovery.
Everybody, I hope you have enjoyed our tour of the emergency management system here in Flagler County. And as we've done before, when we've interviewed different people from this group, we want to talk to the community and let them know how proud we are as a citizen of Flagler County to have an organization like this covering our backs. If you don't know how much effort goes into securing our county for possible big emergencies and small emergencies, to protect us, protect our homes, protect our families, you got to come and visit. After you view this, come and visit, make an arrangement to come and see what this county is doing for you to help protect you. Now, in closing, I'd like to give Jonathan a minute or so, or whatever he feels, to bring his closing remarks to us. So, Jonathan, you're on.
Sure. Well, thank you all for joining us on a little walking tour today. It's a little different than our previous podcast with the Flagler Voice. And thank you to Flagler Voice for helping get the word about this amazing facility and our great team of staff and volunteers that we have here, making sure that our community is prepared and ready to deal with whatever disaster may come our way. We don't want disasters to happen, but we want to make sure our community is prepared and that you are all rest assured that your government is prepared to take care of you should you need assistance. For those looking to volunteer, we talked about a couple of volunteer opportunities over the last few months. Please reach out to us and visit our website at flaglercounty.gov/emergency. That's flaglercounty.gov/emergency, or give us a call at 386-313-4200. One of our great volunteers or staff will advise you about our trainings that are coming up, as well as volunteer opportunities. So thank you, Flagler County, and be safe.